week. My name is Garrett Martin. I'm your host. I want to take a couple minutes just to talk about the Affordable Care Act, or as many people refer to it as Obamacare. Um, Now, when I had first heard about the Affordable Care Act, I was really excited for it. Um, I sat down and I was able to read the bill, and there were some things that I didn't like about it, such as it's not a single payer healthcare system. It's actually more pro insurance company than it is pro people. Um, but it also allows for the expansion of Medicaid and uh, will allow many people who can't afford healthcare as it is to be able to get it under Medicaid expansion programs. And that was really amazing. I thought that was great. Um, Now, since the Affordable Care Act has become law and the Republicans have tried to repeal it over 60 times now and failed, I just want to make a couple notes on it. Uh, the Affordable Care Act dropped the ball huge. It will make getting a single payer healthcare system very, very hard and maybe next to impossible within my lifetime. It's something that we definitely need. It's something that our kids and our grandkids should definitely push for as their generation takes power. Um, but the Affordable Care Act is going to make it extremely hard for us to get to that point. And it kind of sounded like it was meant to pave the way for a single payer healthcare system. But in turn, it made people more isolated and aggressive in their viewpoints, because you see people have their insurance premiums raise up every year, and the insurance companies say, "Oh, well, we have a lot more sick people who are on healthcare plans now, so your rates have to go up because we are paying more for healthcare." And while the Affordable Care Act is to blame a little bit, it boggles my mind that the conservatives aren't looking at the insurance companies and saying, "Hey, whoa, we understand that there's a lot more sick people, but you're also getting paid a lot more through the premiums that people are given. So you're making more money and now you're charging more." They're not looking at how much profit, let's say, Blue Cross Blue Shield is making, and then saying, "Hey, why this next year are you projected to make X amount dollars more instead of that money going to pay for the healthcare that you're saying you have to raise these prices for?" It If you think that Blue Cross Blue Shield or any other healthcare insurance company is raising their prices just because there's more people and they have to pay more, and that's the only reason why, you're out of your mind. They're raising their insurance premiums so that way they can make more money. It's all about the money. That's all they're doing it for. And there's so many people who are blaming the Affordable Care Act for it. No, you need to be looking at your insurance companies. Health insurance premiums have been going up every year. That's just what they do. But now they have that scapegoat of the Affordable Care Act where they can say, "Oh, well, no, we have to raise it by so much more. Poor us and our billions of dollars of profit every year. We can't afford to lose $1 of that." It's just insane that the conservatives are not screaming at the insurance companies. They're only screaming at the Affordable Care Act. And it doesn't matter where you look at for conservative media. They're all doing the same thing. They need to be attacking the real root of the evil, and that's the insurance companies. And on the flip side, you have the progressives who, yeah, they like Affordable Care Act just like I do, because it has helped millions of people. But they don't want their premiums to rise up, and a lot of them aren't looking at the insurance companies and saying that the insurance companies are doing wrong. And it boggles my mind that people aren't attacking the insurance companies as hard as they should. Um, but do I think Obamacare should stay in place? Probably not. But at the same time, if you get rid of the Affordable Care Act, well, you have hundreds of thousands of people who would then lose insurance coverage, whether they're on Medicaid or they had insurance before, they would lose their insurance coverage. If they fall into a pit and they can't afford to pay, and then they lose it for 6 months and then get to a point where they can get it back. But now they've been without coverage for 6 months, and then they're going to try to get it again. And if they're sick, sorry, Charlie, you just might not get it. But if you take away the Affordable Care Act, you got to put something else in its place. And that would be a single payer healthcare system. And it works so wonderfully for other countries. And I know that what I'm talking about now is socialism, but guess what? It's not socialism like we see in other countries. It would be socialism that would actually fit for the American way of life. And I understand that might sound like an oxymoron, but there's ways to incorporate socialism into the Republic of America. And we need to look and explore those options. Now, the one horrible thing about the Affordable Care Act is there's this huge gap where thousands of Americans fall into, where they're too poor to buy insurance for themselves, and they make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, even in states that have the Medicaid expansion programs. So what are they supposed to do? There's a lot of people who they need either medicine or they need a procedure done, and it's a couple $1,000s. Nothing huge or major, but they're in a state where they can't afford to pay that bill. They don't have the money to even get the test done. And they can't buy insurance because the premiums are way too high per month. And they're just stuck. So you're having thousands and thousands of Americans who are just going to end up dying or become extremely sick and fatally ill because they just can't afford it and they're not poor enough. And these are people who they are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and there's just no relief for them. There's people out there who are bleeding themselves dry for their families and hoping to make a life. And you have conservatives who are poking them with a stick saying, hey, why don't you pull yourself up by the bootstraps? Why don't you do a little bit better for your family? Why don't you go to school and go get a better job after that? Why don't you get a better education? These people, not everybody has the means to go out and get a better job or go to school and drown themselves in debt. Not everybody has that ability because they're sacrificing so much and working so hard as it is. So you have conservatives who are calling these people poor and, unwilling to work, and that's simply not the case. It's just they're left in a gap where they have nowhere else to turn, so they're having to work their fingers to the bone just to make ends meet. And then they don't have the insurance to even make sure that they're healthy. So their health is quickly going downhill, and there's no relief for them. And that's a shame because the Affordable Care Act, it promised so much. And it could have been such a great program, but it fell short all because it was pro-insurance companies. And the insurance companies are making boatloads of money off of it. And in return, you have the American people who are pitted at each other's throats. And they're starting to drown in debt because of the Affordable Care Act. And their paychecks are dwindling because of the insurance premiums that rise up every year. So if you're upset about the Affordable Care Act like I am, you need to write your representatives. You need to urge them to get a single-payer healthcare system and to make something better than what we have now. Either make amendments to the Affordable Health Care Act or take it out and replace it with something better. But either way, we need to do better for our country. All right, well, thanks for listening and liking on this podcast. My name is Garrett Martin. I'm your host here at Citizen Speak. Make sure you find us on Twitter at CitSpeak. All right, thank you so much.